what was the day in the year when the people on the Earth used up the environmental services that the Earth would provide for the whole year? At the moment, it's in August. 10 years ago, it was in September. 20 years ago, it was in October. Of course, the earlier in the year that it is, the greater the deficit that we're paying off using our environmental credit card. So all of that to say, there's absolutely desperate need for urgent attention to how we're going to change in order to live without using our credit card. And it's just worthwhile, I think, to spend a little bit of time looking at, it's not the only issue by any means. There are so many important symptoms that we face, but I think climate change is perhaps the one that is a dominant consideration for many people. And as it was mentioned in my introduction, I was the last person to chair the National Roundtable on the Environment and the Economy, the late lamented, much revered in retrospect organization that did a huge amount of work in thinking through how you could deal with the issue, deal with the consequences of climate change, which we're already experiencing, and how you could take action to reduce the effects. I'll just tell you that the last report that we did, it was called Reality Check. And in fact, the government had asked us to do this. They had asked us to look at all of the programs and policies that were in place within the governments of Canada. That's federal and provincial. The ones in place and the ones announced, the ones proposed. And we were very generous and we said, all those ones that you're talking about, we will assume they come into effect and do whatever they're capable of doing by the target date of 2020, because that was the day or year in which it was expected that there'd be a 17% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions relative to the starting point, which was 2005. An arbitrary starting point, actually an arbitrary end point. But nonetheless, that was the range. And we looked at everything that existed, and we said the total effect of all of those programs will get us about halfway towards the target. In other words, you've got to do a great deal more than what you've already announced in order to achieve your target, and to do it within now what is a shorter amount of time. I thought it was really instructive on how the Minister of the Environment received what I thought would be rather bad news. He said, according to the Roundtable, we're halfway there. And in fact, that still continued. You hear, they remember that. They remember it much more than the message we gave, which were, you'll only ever be halfway there, matey. Corporations. I just want to talk about big multinational corporations for a bit. And I do so from, I should declare my association. I'm a party to a thing called the World Environment Center, which is based in Washington. And for the last 25 years, we have given a gold medal to a company that, in our mind, has done a terrific job on sustainable development. And I'm on the jury, which makes the determination as to which is the most worthy company. And so, for the last number of years, I've had this terrific opportunity to look at the actual performance of companies. And it has been one of my biggest educational experiences, is to learn how big multinational companies are doing. And these are leading companies. I'm not foolish enough to think everybody falls into this category. I'm only talking about leading multinational companies, but they're worthwhile paying attention to. Because when you look at the 100 largest financial economic players on the planet, you'll see 50 of them are multinational corporations. Multinational corporations are now larger than many sovereign states. Walmart has annual sales greater than the GDP of Norway. So these are significant players in anyone's language. Do you know how many people work for Walmart? 2 million. It's right up there with the Chinese army as an employer in size. And these companies have encountered what they need in order to operate an enterprise. And operating an enterprise these days, you need 3 licenses to operate. You need a commercial license to operate. In other words, you have to have an economic case, you go to the bank, you go to your investors, you go to the board of directors and say, we want to do this, open this new plant, build this new production line, and we believe we will make this amount of money. And you get the approval of that, so you have a commercial license to operate. Another one is the government license to operate. Are you meeting all of the prescriptions that government has imposed upon you, citing operations, all those sorts of things that you're familiar with? But these days there's a 3rd license, which we actually don't understand very well. We call it the social license to operate. In other words, more than intangibles. If you operate in this community, are you going to actually be able to recruit the people you want to work in your plant? The customers that you are aiming to service, are they actually going to buy your product or your service? In other words, this is the manifestation of the power of the marketplace and the consumer's collective ability to influence the marketplace. So if you look at the oil sands in Alberta, this is a terrific example of an operation, industrial operation, that has lost its social license to operate and is now attempting to regain it by changing the way it does things. And for these businesses, they're looking at a world which in the next 40 years will have an increase in population of 2 billion people, will be party to an economic activity which will at least triple in size from where it is today. And they know that if they can't satisfy the social aspirations of their consumers, their clients, they will not be allowed to operate.